Hey, what's up everyone? Morey Croson here, and we have a brand new breakdown for you today on Christian Coleman. We'll start the video right now. This is the newest edition of the Performance Lab. Reach your individual goals. You don't want to just talk about straight line speed. We also want to talk about your ability to be quick. We break down your video. Let's make you into the quarterback I know you can become. All right, and in perfect timing, we have Christian Coleman coming back to be able to show that he is still as much in the race here, going for the 100-meter world championship as anybody else. I really think that, going into the last month or month and a half here before we get, set up for the Worlds, we're going to see some great races. A lot of time people that are peaking. And Christian Coleman, I think, at the end of the day, needed to get a little bit of that rhythm and timing back. We talk a lot about with sprinting, there's got to be rhythm, there's got to be timing in order to be able to run fast. And so when you're out of the game a little bit, you haven't run some races, you kind of lose some of that. And we could see here that he is back and he's really ready to make a big statement as he, continues through, again, the next, 6 weeks. I think he's just getting started here. And what we really want to be able to see, and let's see when that back foot comes off the blocks here, we got 0.40, okay, and we get the foot back down at 6.3. Okay, so he's at that 2.3 area. This is about what we saw with Omanyala as well, where you saw the lowest so far has been with Trayvon Bromell, which got, I think, 0.19, right, or sub 0.2, or maybe it was just at 0.2, right in that kind of area there. It's hard to be able to tell 100% with the video because the frames end up going by 0.3 of a second a lot of times here. So it's hard to be able to see exactly what we're at, but we can see with that foot landing, okay, we lands at 6.3, off at 8.0, right? So 0.17 with that foot contact, which is great. Let's see this one, 8.7, off at, let's see, 8.7, probably off right there, okay, which would be about 1.3. Okay, down at 0.10 there, and then off at 2.4, right? So he's at 0.13, 0.14. Okay, and this ends up being really important, right? The whole foot contact time, right? Because what I commonly see and what we really want to be able to do in understanding the way to be able to generate the most amount of force into the ground and really have the best start that we possibly can and be able to set us up to be able to run a fast 100-meter, 60-meter, 60-yard, 40-yard, whatever the case may be, is being able to generate force into the ground. Okay, and being able to understand that that is our primary source of force production and that's our primary source of speed is how we hit the ground. Okay, because when we get caught up in pushing off of the ground, right, pushing back here, then we set ourselves up to not be able to run as fast. Okay, and so what the best people in the world, the best sprinters in the world are able to do is they're able to get their feet out in front and be able to pull with their foot back underneath. And then what we want to be able to understand and why I take the time and I continue to say this is because of how relevant it is. Okay, because what happens is you end up creating different types of muscle structures, right? So if somebody is able to get their foot out in front, like we could see Christian Coleman here, right? See how well he's able to transition this foot off the ground, get that foot out in front and pull right there and has his leg basically straight. He's still bent over, but his leg's basically straight. Let's see how many steps that is. I want to say it's the 5th step. 1, 3, 5. Right? So in his 5th step, he basically has that foot straight or leg straight as he's landing. His foot's actually kind of turned off to the side, but his leg is straight. Okay? And so what that does is it gives him the opportunity to be able to utilize the muscles that are going to be creating hip extension at a larger capacity, right? So he's able to use it with more force. Okay? And the other part is going to be more consistency, right? Number 2 is more consistency. So more often through the race, he's able to utilize the muscles necessary to be able to run fast, right? And because he also does it with so much power in it, he also is able to generate more of the muscles that will allow him to create more power. He creates more of the neurotransmitters, right, in the brain that allow him to better connect to those muscles to make it so then he can create more power, right? So when we talk about people having all these genetic gifts, and there's definitely, to a degree, 100%, you have to have some good genetic code, right? But we've made a video about this before. There is a pretty large population that has the genetics necessary to be able to run fast, right? What we don't have is enough people that understand the technique. We don't have enough people that are able to replicate the correct ways of being able to do it, right? And so that ends up being the key difference here, is he so effectively gets into just, I mean, with that right leg, how he's striking the ground is just exactly what you want to be doing, right? Pulling that foot back, okay? And if we want to see more about how he's doing it, right, it's here. Watch that knee come forward, okay? Knee coming through, foot slightly outside the knee, okay? Knee coming forward and through, right? So we can see how he pushes off, knee coming straight forward and through, okay? Foot a little bit outside, drives back. Foot a little bit outside, drives back. Landing on the inside part of the foot, right? Landing with the heel up, okay? Not spending a lot of time with his foot back behind. Really concentrating on how his foot is striking the ground, okay? And so a lot of times what you'll feel, right, and I went through this as well, right? You don't feel as much power at first because you're not used to it, okay? But then you try to overcompensate by pushing with your foot back behind, which creates a bad habit. Instead, you just got to slow down for a little bit and be able to focus on how can I get better at being able to generate this force, and over a period of time, you'll be able to make the adjustments to be able to run faster, okay, and be able to start better. All right, but if you're not patient with it, it's not going to end up working. All right, and so now when he gets to top speed, you know, we talked about this before. He's landing at 3.5, you know, gets off the ground in about 0.08, right? Lands at 0.5 here, gets off very quickly, all right, by about 6.2 maybe on that, right? So he's at about 0.07 to 0.08 in terms of foot contact, right? Whoops, don't want that to be a 1, it's a 0.18, 0.08, 0.07, 0.08 foot contact. So elite foot contact, great foot contact. Really, you know, in a lot of ways, amazing foot contact. Okay, what we want to be able to really see for him is probably an improvement of his leg cycle, right? So we got 0.04 here. An improvement of his leg cycle and his ability to just spend time off of the ground. So he's been able to get more distance per step. Okay, 0.3 is not bad. Let's get this one, 6.2. Okay, and touches back down. Does a great job of being able to reach down towards the ground. Again, 0.33, so he's having good foot contact there. Now, the big question is, how much time is he spending off the ground? So he's off here at 0.02, and he's back down at about 0.12, right? So he's closer to 0.1, okay? And what we see from the best guys is they're closer to 0.12, right? Maybe even 0.13. Okay, so they're spending more time off the ground. Okay, so how is he able to build that ability to be able to get more time off the ground? Based off what we're seeing here, it's going to end up coming from more range of motion within the ankle, right? Instead of being so far turned here with so much external rotation, he's able to create a little bit more internal rotation of the leg, right? He's able to keep that heel up a little bit more effectively. So then when he pushes off, he can push off in more of a horizontal pattern. He gets a very, very vertical push off. Okay, which a lot of times is great, okay? Especially when it comes to guys like Usain Bolt, right? When it comes to guys like Joseph Pamboulet, right? It's very good for them to be able to get a great vertical push off because they use their long legs and their height, so they can create kind of a natural reach with their leg cycle and how much horizontal force that they're able to generate pretty naturally, right? Because they can get that foot all the way up and through, right? And then it helps them being able to push off, right? But what we see with like a Trayvon Bromell, for instance, is we see, you know, a very straight leg as he's pulling through, okay, which then makes it so then he could push off the ground or he contacts the ground with a lot more backward force in his in his foot contact, right? Where what we see with Christian Coleman is a lot more vertical force, right? We don't see as much horizontal. He comes straight down with that foot right there, right? And then that allows that foot to get a little bit further back behind him, okay, which, you know, he still ends up creating a lot of vertical force. So this is a clear example. This is a great example, actually. I love this. If you guys are watching this, really, you know, buckle in your seatbelts, right? This is why you're following the Performance Lab of California. We're going to give you the best details, the best information to be able to help you in being able to improve your sprint. Click that like button or the thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. So the thing that's happening here is, and what we talk about is, it's the foot contact, right? So even though he's going and getting his foot's getting very far back behind him, which would make you feel like he's getting more of a horizontal action, it's not horizontal, it's vertical still, because it's about how you hit the ground, right? So he's hitting the ground with more vertical force, right? And then he's trying to be able to make that up by pushing off horizontally, right? And because he's pushing off horizontally, he's limiting how much time he's spending on the ground, closer to 0.1, where the goal is to be as close to 0.13 as possible, right? That's what Bromel's getting, right? That's what we saw with Omanyala. And I say those two guys because those two guys are about the same height as Christian Coleman, right? Omanyala is really a very, very similar build. So there's no reason why Christian Coleman shouldn't be able to create that same type of production, right? And spending 0.13 off the ground, or even 0.12. Okay, but instead, he's not spending as much time on the ground, so he's having to cycle his leg. He's putting more energy into his sprint, right? So he's having to take more steps, right? So he ends up dying a little bit more at the end, right? Those last 20 meters, because everybody else is starting to be able to really create a lot more distance per step, right? Because now they're really starting to be able to open up that stride, where Christian Coleman is losing his distance per step because he's relying more on vertical force as he's sprinting. And there you have it. Boom, 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 bow. That's where Christian Coleman needs to be able to improve, and that's where Christian Coleman at the end of the day is getting, caught by some of the best guys in the world. So if he can improve on that, then it could really make a big difference in his overall performance. So as always, if you like the information, click that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. If you want to learn more about what we do in terms of our programs, check the description down below. We have some great things there. Again, it's a focus on technique, right? How we can get better. What are the things that are going to make the biggest difference? And we want to look at the numbers, right? How much time are you spending on the ground? How are you creating that force into the ground? How well are we able to create a great turnover, right? What does a great turnover look like? How does your sprinting mechanics, based off of your body type, right? What it is that you can excel in, right? What are things that you struggle at? How does that correlate to some of the other top sprinters? Okay, I did a lot of research into this topic. How can I run faster? How do I improve my speed? And I failed for a long time, right? I had a lot of struggles for a long time. But what you end up doing is you end up getting a system that makes sense and a system that works. And so, if you could either spend a lot of time trying to figure it out on your own, right? I recommend you watching a bunch of my videos. I'll be able to help you and guide you the best that I can. But at the end of the day, I think it helps to be able to have a coach to be able to bounce ideas off of and be able to really see and connect what is it that we need to do, so then we could really focus on what we're trying to improve on, which is our technique, our sprinting times, and things like that. But if you have to spend a lot of time watching YouTube, you're just not going to get the same type of results. It's not going to happen as quickly. And, if it ends up happening and you have the time to invest into it, by all means, if you want to get there faster, check out one of the programs. We'll be happy to work with you and to help you out. So again, thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.